he felt that with Mahatma Gandhi capturing the leadership of the Congress and bringing the masses into politics, his way of doing politics, that was to go to the Central Legislative Assembly and the Imperial Legislative Assembly previously, that will not do. And Gandhi is going to capture the leadership. He could not accept being a second level leader to anyone. That was a problem with Jinnah. He wanted to be leader number one.
নমস্কার বন্ধুরা, আজকে আমাদের সঙ্গে রয়েছেন সেই বরেণ্য লেখক যার নাম ইশতাক আহমেদ, যিনি আমাদের বারবার চিনিয়েছেন ভারত পাকিস্তানের যন্ত্রণার কথা, দেশভাগের যন্ত্রণার কথা। ফলে ইশতাক আহমেদের সাথে আজকে আমরা একটা লম্বা কথার সফরমালায় যাব। ওয়েলকাম স্যার টু আওয়ার কথা মুখ।
Thank you very much. Looking forward to our talk today. Yes.
So my first, Ishtiaq Ahamed is a very good writer. He written several books. He is an eminent scholar. He written several books regarding politics in Pakistan. He written a books regarding Jinnah. Ishtiaq sir, how do you describe Jinnah? Is he a secular leader or he is a communalist? How do you describe Jinnah? What is Jinnah to you?
Jinnah was secular during his first phase in politics. That is from 1906 to 1916, definitely. Because when the partition of Bengal took place, he was still not in politics, but he was a Bombay sort of public figure and he condemned it. When the Muslim League was founded, he condemned it. He said this was a divisive thing. When the Shimla deputation went asking for separate electorates, he condemned it. So if you look at those stages, and then when he was setting together the Lucknow Pact of 1916, after that some Muslims wondered that would this not mean that the Hindus will dominate Muslims forever through this pact, and he dismissed it, that it was a foolish thing to think this way. India is for everyone, not for Hindus, not for Muslims. So that's the first phase of Jinnah, begins as a secular nationalist. Why did he become a communalist? That is the big question.
Yes, sir.
I think Jinnah became a communalist because he felt that with Mahatma Gandhi capturing the leadership of the Congress and bringing the masses into politics, his way of doing politics, that was to go to the Central Legislative Assembly and the Imperial Legislative Assembly previously, that will not do. And Gandhi is going to capture the leadership. He could not accept being a second level leader to anyone. That was a problem with Jinnah. He wanted to be leader number one. So what do? If you can't be the leader of all Indians, who else can you be the leader of? So he decided to become the leader of Muslims. And from 1937, it's on record when he talked to the governor of governor of Bombay. He said, from now on, I'm going to use communalism to make Muslims reject the Congress. And after that, Jinnah was a dyed in the wool type of communalist. He openly said that without communalism, there will be no Pakistan. So then he used the communal card and he remained a communalist till the very end. So for me, Jinnah adopted his politics according to his leadership need. When the leadership he thought was, going out of his hands, he played the communalist card and became the leader of the communal movement, communalist. He was a communalist through and through.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you told a buzzword in an interview that theology is a different thing and culture is a different thing.
Yeah.
In political essence, two nation theory is championed. We divided into Pakistan and India. But in
Yeah.
culturally, we are very intermingled with the
Yes.
so-called
Yes.
Indian
Yes.
culture. So
Yes.
how do you define that? So
You
if
see,
you
two nation theory is a political construct. It didn't exist previously. There were Hindus and Muslims, these were religious communities which had their own religious way of doing things, their own communal culture, which I call communitarianism. Communalism is when you use that to hate another group. Okay, that's the difference. Communitarian is when, as a Hindu, you want to reform India, you want to improve the conditions of the people, or you want to do something else without directing your interest in your community against another community. The best example is Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who wanted to reform Hindu society, but he went to England as the representative of the Mughal emperor to plead his case. So that's an example of working for your community without hating another community. So, and culture, Bengali language, Bengali poets, Bengali literature, the way you speak, the way you act, one can say these are Bengalis, and then you can say, well, he is probably a Hindu, he's probably a Muslim because of some differences as well. The same when you come to Punjab or to Gujarat, people who live in the same area develop ways of living together also, sharing some things, not sharing some other things like your religious beliefs and so on. So the cultural links between Punjabi, Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs were very strong because of the Sufi culture and the Guru culture and the Jogi culture. All these were part of the Punjab situation. I'm sure in Bengal it was very similar as well.
exactly.
Rabindranath Tagore and is a poet greatly revered both in East and in West Bengal, for example. Isn't that true?
Exactly, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, we will come to the question of Bengal. I
Yeah.
ask a thing. You write it in your book and told that in the late 40, in the beginning of 1940s, there is a Gandhi wrote a letter to Mr. Jinnah
Ji.
that you float a secular opposition of Congress, and
Quite right.
Jinnah met with Mr. Ambedkar also. Why
Hmm.
didn't that didn't happen? Why this
I
project is
think,
failed?
yeah, I think Jinnah had a bad experience of being one leader among many others in the Congress. There was Gandhi, there was uh, Rajagopalachari, there was Rajendra Prasad, there was Mahatma Gandhi, there was Jawaharlal Nehru, there was Motilal Nehru, a whole string of great people. Now, having left them and now trying to become the leader of Muslims, to once again share leadership with two, uh, you know, great leaders, Dr. Ambedkar, and then from South India, Periyar. He didn't want to go.
Ramaswamy easy
He
failure.
wanted to go his own way. He wanted Pakistan. After 1937, his whole politics was how to get partition, India partition to create Pakistan.
Thank you, sir. Now we come to the point of Bengal. The
Okay.
greatest tragedy is faced by Bengal. MQM leader Altaf Hussain said that the greatest tragedy of the art is the division of India. So why Bengal is divided, it is not the question. The question is that if we can make a confederation like European Union, that one day India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh will unite it. I'm not preaching the project of a Sangha. I'm preaching the project of what we say in Europe,
Yeah.
unite. So like you, so it is possible that we are united like Europe once upon a time.
Yes,
আমরা কি
I
এরকম?
think the ultimate destiny of this region is to come together. I think there should be two levels. First, it should be a union of
States.
independent South Asian states. Once you have created that through the SARC, for example, project, then you can go further and make a confederation, as you are saying. So the first phase should be trust building, finding what is common, developing that, and then realizing that we can go even further and become a confederation. So I agree with you that you cannot now, after 75 years, make uh, Bengal, the two Bengals merge into India and Pakistan becoming a part of India as some people wanted, Akhand Bharat. Maybe that's not possible. But what is possible is first to make a union of independent South Asian states which come together to achieve economic uh, uh, development, to use the water resources, land resources, environment, build them together. And as you do it, you then start doing many other things like a confederation, which is the European Union. And then finally, one day, maybe the borders become useless because I live in Sweden. Tomorrow, if I want to go to the other end of the European Union, that is Portugal, all I need is to sit in a car and drive all the way, and nobody will stop me. While there is a Swedish state with its territory, Danish state, German state, Austrian state, and yet for citizens to travel from one place to another and even go and settle there is open to everyone. So I think that should happen, but in stages.
Thank you, sir. You are in a correct path. I am not telling about Akhand Bharat. I am telling about the Confederation of States.
That's what
So,
I'm saying. I'm saying I agree with you. The confederation of states is what we should aim at, right?
but in recent writings, Salman Rushdie wrote a thing. He tells that Pakistan is a bad dream. The dreams regarding Pakistan, about dreams regarding Pakistan, Jinnah's dream regarding Pakistan has been ruined. And what I say, the sister of Jinnah, what is her name? That
Fatma Jinnah.
Fatima Jinnah. She also not could find any right place in Pakistan politics. What happened that? Why Jinnah ruined in Pakistan? Why the concept of Jinnah has been ruined in Pakistan?
Well, Jinnah played his cards as a lawyer to plead the case of Pakistan, and he
That
was
is
able to convince the British that creating Pakistan would suit their interests because the British knew they had to leave India, but they wanted to leave India on their own terms. And they had heavy investment in this subcontinent, and they feared that because of the great poverty of India and Jawaharlal Nehru and many people who had a leftist orientation, India might move close to the Soviet Union. So they decided to create Pakistan, and Jinnah wanted Pakistan. So Pakistan was created partly because Jinnah insisted that Hindus and Muslims cannot live together, and the British felt that a Pakistan which was Islamic could be used ideologically to prevent the spread of communism. I've given those details in my Jinnah book and in my book
and
Pakistan, the
you also
Garrison
you
State.
also told that beautifully that the so-called jihad, the American-sponsored jihad, started from the land of Pakistan.
Yes. So what I'm trying to say is that the British plan was adopted by the Americans in the 1970s and put to use. And through whom? Through Pakistan. Simple as that. Whatever the British had planned, the Americans carried out because British capacity to influence the world ended after the Second World War. The Americans took over. So All that, what I argue, I also show that it happened.
So let's have a question. Who is better option? Is Imran Khan or Shahbaz Sharif? Who is better?
Well, the situation at the moment is very fluid, and we should wait and see, because some people think that Shehbaz Sharif comes from a business family, and given a chance, maybe he will put the Pakistan economy back into some sort of uh, working shape. Under Imran Khan, the economy has fared very badly. But there is a strong opinion now among Pakistanis that Shehbaz Sharif and the rest have been brought into power by the Western powers and the Pakistani establishment. So I think this should be settled by a fair and free election based on a multi-party system without any rigging. Once that is done, if the people of Pakistan want Shehbaz Sharif, he should be the prime minister, rather than going through the no confidence vote. That is what is being questioned. Technically, it is the correct thing to do, but does such a way of getting into power have a acceptance among the Pakistani people? Some say yes, some say no. So once elections are held, we'll see which of the two will form the government. Uh,
Sir,
what we can
sir,
say is that Imran Khan and Shehbaz Sharif both are identical when it comes to the Kashmir question, and want that to be settled first before anything, any normalization with India. So for me, that is very disappointing. If Shehbaz Sharif could move away from it and say, okay, we will discuss Kashmir and settle it peacefully, but we will do business with India, then I would welcome Shehbaz Sharif. But that doesn't seem to be his position. So then why should I take position in favor of one or the other? That's the problem.
well, sir, in Pakistan, we see a well articulated silence about 1971. Nobody speaks about that.
Yeah.
Intelligentsia also kept mum about the 1971 situation.
Hmm.
Why that happened? Why
Well,
nobody told
because
anything about
because
1971 and liberation of Bangladesh?
because the West Pakistani power elite is responsible for the breakup of Pakistan. They don't want to accept it. They want to blame it on India. They want to say that the Bengalis became Indian agents. That's their point of view. If they accept it, then they have to blame many people in Pakistan, including, of course, the military, but also Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who took a very uncompromising position on this, and that's not easily done. All the mainstream parties, Punjab and so on, favored the military action. Only the Northwest Frontier had the National Awami Party of Wali Khan, and then in Balochistan, the people were opposed to it. But the Punjab parties, different types, supported the military action. The People's Party supported the military action. For them, it is very difficult to accept their responsibility for the breakup of Pakistan. That's the main reason.
But why, after so many years of 1971, after 50 years of Bangladesh liberation, why intelligentsia also got mum about this reason? Why
No,
intelligentsia?
I think intelligentsia here and there have been raising their voices. There is a Hamudur Rahman Commission report published by one of our leading journalists, Najam Sethi, which brought forth how the Hamudur Rahman Commission blamed people. Then one of the officers of the Pakistan army, Brigadier Siddiqui, he wrote a book exposing the crimes which were committed in uh, East Pakistan. What we can say is that at the national level, They do not want to accept that Pakistan or the West Pakistan leadership was responsible. For them, that is difficult. But intellectuals have been writing about it who live in Pakistan. So it's not true that all intellectuals are mum. But mainstream intellectuals are always attached to the state. You know, Gramsci, this
Now,
Marxist
hegemony.
writer, yeah, Antonio Gramsci, he said that there are two types of intellectuals. One who are state intellectuals. So people who work to support the state project will never accept what happened in East Pakistan. Then he said there are class intellectuals, people who support the oppressed classes. We say that there is a third category, the public intellectuals, who look at the facts and then they give their opinion. So I am one, others have written in Pakistan also, but you are right. Mainstream intellectuals, journalists, uh, the army, the politicians, they want to remain mum on what happened in East Pakistan in 1971. That is correct.
So you told about literature. I have two favorite writers. One is Sadat Hasan Manto,
Yeah,
Tobat Singh. He described all the process of two-nation theory in that story, and
mm,
Rabindranath Tagore.
yeah.
So I have a question that पाकिस्तान के साथ हमारा जो गुफ्तगू है इंटेलेक्चुअल स्तर में जो गुफ्तगू होना चाहिए था, दोनों मुल्क का जो लिटरली एक्सपर्ट एक साथ आना चाहिए था, वो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है इस इंटरनेट की युग में भी?
अब ये
पीपल टू पीपल
मैं तो नहीं बता सकता। देखें, रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर ने बंगाली में लिखा, पाकिस्तान में तो बंगाली कोई पढ़ता ही नहीं है, और उसका तर्जमा अंग्रेजी में जो हुआ है शायद चंद लोगों ने पढ़ा हो, मैंने भी उनकी चंद वर्सेस पढ़ी हैं। तो जब जुबान लैंग्वेज का प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है तो फिर वेस्ट पाकिस्तान में बंगाली लिटरेचर जब तक अंग्रेजी में ट्रांसलेट ना हो तो वो नहीं पढ़ा जा सकता। उर्दू में तो कोई करते ही नहीं ना ट्रांसलेशंस इस किस्म की, अंग्रेजी में पढ़े लिखे लोग करते
why
हैं।
this happened? Urdu is the national language of Pakistan, but the translation of many books are not happening in Urdu. Why this is happening?
भाई, पाकिस्तान इज एन आइडियोलॉजिकल स्टेट। रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर वाज अ हिंदू, उसकी वो ट्रांसलेट क्यों करे? भगत सिंह जो पंजाबी था और जिसको फांसी लगाई गई, उसकी याद में एक स्क्वायर है जहां पे उसको हैंग किया गया था। कई दफा कोशिश की कि उसका नाम रख दिया जाए भगत सिंह स्क्वायर, वो नहीं होने देते यार। तो
But
रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर को वो कैसे मान लेंगे?
Bhagat Singh is too
पाकिस्तान
popular.
आइडियोलॉजिकल स्टेट है, अगर कोई मुसलमान नहीं है तो उसको वो नहीं मानते। बहुत मुश्किल से अगर मानते हैं तो सर गंगाराम को, वो भी हमारे जैसे लोग जो हैं वो मनवा लेते हैं कि सारे अस्पताल उन्होंने बनाए। फिर दयाल क्या नाम था उनका यार,
वो लोग तो अंकल सैम को मानते हैं, शेक्सपियर को मानते हैं, वो लोग तो
सब
मुसलमान नहीं।
मानते हैं। वो अंग्रेजी पढ़े हुए लोग जो हैं वो अंग्रेजों के लिटरेचर को आपसे मुझसे बेहतर कोट कर सकते हैं, शेक्सपियर को और बाकियों को, क्योंकि उनकी सारी ओरिएंटेशन तो उधर ही है ना। ये वजह है। टैगोर को पढ़ने का मतलब है यू ओपन योर विस्टास टू अ ग्रेट लिटरेचर जहां पे सेकुलर आइडियाज हैं, प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियाज हैं। तो वो अगर उर्दू में भी छपे, उनको नहीं वो पढ़ते तो रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर को कहां पढ़ना शुरू कर देंगे? नो नो, पाकिस्तान इज एन एंटी इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रोजेक्ट। बंगालियों में पढ़ने का बड़ा रिवाज है, पाकिस्तानियों में पढ़ने का वैसे ही रिवाज नहीं है। एन एवरेज बंगाली रीड्स मच मोर देन एन एवरेज पंजाबी, और पंजाबियों के अलावा बाकियों का तो मुझे पता नहीं कितना वो पढ़ते हैं।
But what about the regional languages of Pakistan,
जी,
apart from Punjabi, the Pushto and others? They have also stunt intellectuals. Why they are not flourishing? Is the state is determining that one language should flourish? That is Punjabi.
नहीं,
Is that
पंजाबी doesn't flourish at all in Pakistan at the official level. Do you know 50+% of the population of Pakistan is Punjabi, but you cannot speak in Punjabi in the Punjab Assembly. Punjabi is not taught in the schools yet. One can do an MA Punjabi privately, but nobody patronizes Punjabi. It's only Urdu. Actually, what they are doing is they are translating Pashto, Sindhi literature, Punjabi literature into Urdu. Everything has been translated into Urdu.
But only 2% of population speaks Urdu in Pakistan, if I'm not wrong.
Well,
only 2% of population speaks Urdu in Pakistan, if I'm not wrong.
Let me say like this. In 1947, 3% of the population had Urdu as their mother tongue. But in Punjab, because the British brought Urdu as the medium of instruction in school, Punjabis who went to school and could read and write could do it in Urdu, okay? And that included Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs, Punjabis. I think Pashtun or the Pashto speaking also who went to school, Aligarh and so on, could read Urdu, and some Sindhis as well. But Sindhi language, like Bengali, was very developed, and Sindhi literature is very rich. The case of Pashto is very interesting. All the ruling families at Kabul of the Pashtuns were Persian speaking, not Pashto speaking, whereas Pashto was the language of the masses. Now, there is a lot of Pashto literature, but very little is introduced that I know of. So there are regional literatures. Baloch have their own literature, very rich. But the project of the Pakistani state is everything should be converted or translated into Urdu, and that's it. So the emphasis is on Urdu. So what we can say is that educated Punjabis have no problem speaking and writing in Urdu. Educated Pashtuns can also do it. Educated Sindhis can also do it. So the linked language of Pakistan is definitely Urdu, but it's now the mother tongue after the breakup of Pakistan in 71, only of 7% of the population. Who are these 7% people? Who came from northern India, Delhi, Allahabad, Benares, Bihar, and then Hyderabad, Deccan. This is where Urdu was spoken. So northern India and southern India, Hyderabad state, those people after partition came to Karachi and settled there, and they are about 29% of the population of Sindh, I think. But overall, they are just 7% of people who have Urdu as their mother tongue. Although some educated Punjabis now speak to their children in Urdu. So I had a student, I said, what did you declare as your mother tongue? And she said, Urdu. I said, but aren't you Punjabis from Lahore? She said, yes, but my mother always spoke to me in Urdu. So for me, the mother tongue becomes Urdu. So some people now more and more speak Urdu. They understand Punjabi, but speak in Urdu and feel good about it because it means you are educated and you are not illiterate. Punjabi is associated with being illiterate and a village buffoon. That's the problem.
So once upon a time, MQM leader Altaf Hussain said that people who migrated from India to Pakistan, they are treated as muhajir. That means they are second-class citizen of Pakistan. Is that true? The muhajir has been treated as like second-class citizen.
It is an ironical statement because they are the ones, or not they who are in Karachi now, but the Ashrafia of the Muslims who started this whole two-nation theory with Sir Sayyid and many others. In Bengal and Punjab, the two nation theory came much later. You had in Bengal people like, uh,
Sharat
you know, what was his
Stu-
name?
Sharat
Sher
Chandra
Bengal, Fazlul Haq, and
Fazlul
many
Haq,
others. Yeah, and
Sharat
many
Chandra
others.
Bose, Sharad Bose, Fazlul Haq, Sharad Bose
Suraj Ghosh,
tried to
all these people. Yes,
for
yes, yes.
independence Bengal, independent Bengal.
Yeah, that came in 47. That's a much later thing. But I'm saying that, so this was the situation. Okay.
Okay, I have a second question that the women's about women's liberation. Now in Mr. Shahbaz Sharif cabinet, we are finding 5 women ministers. Is
Okay.
Pakistani women are free to express their freedom and their choice?
Elite women have always been free. That's the thing. The women he has chosen, I think, mostly come from middle class, upper middle class.
They're all elite women. They're
Yes,
all elite women.
yes.
What they feel about Pakistan and what their concept of women women development in Pakistan. What elite women feel about women's liberation in Pakistan.
Well, the Maulvis or the ulama and the conservatives are deadly against it. They write against it. They were against the 8th March, Women's International Day. They said the government should not allow them to uh, march on the roads and streets. But anyhow, the government allowed them to do it. So they are opposed to female liberation completely. But more and more girls are now going to school and many women are now in the workforce.
And
Families now,
I also find many YouTubers are women's
yes, yes,
YouTubers
yes, yes,
who are
yes,
representing Pakistan.
yes,
Sana
yes, yes,
Amzad Khan.
yeah, they are very smart and very well educated. So slowly changes are taking place. This is the 21st century. You can't prevent half the population from getting educated. Look, Saudi Arabia, which was the stronghold of Wahhabi orthodoxy, they are trying to open. So ultimately, things will change. But ideologically, Pakistan is very conservative. The mullah power is still very much there. In East or in Bangladesh, they have made great progress on the question of women emancipation. They have brought down the rate of population growth drastically, better than India and Pakistan.
Exactly.
And so, uh, if you look at Bangladesh and Pakistan, Pakistan is a case of a failure on these issues, and Bangladesh is a success story. Okay.
Okay, now we have to leave our interview. So I will ask 2 last questions to our honorable guest, Ishtiaq Ahmed, the eminent writer and thinker. What is your plan is now about your literature? Is you writing any new book regarding this complex situation of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh? Why Bangladesh is going ahead, and
Well,
why
actually,
India and Pakistan is trailing behind? If you have any plan to write any book about that.
no, I'm not writing any book on that subject. I think there are other people who, I know need to learn more about Bangladesh, and maybe now that you have given me an idea, the next book be something like this, what you are saying. But right now, I'm writing a 60,000 word short book just on the partition of Bengal, Punjab, and India. Not what Jinnah and all, but what different political parties said, what did different political leaders say. So actually, I need help from Bengal to get hold of the speeches of Sarat Bose, of
Exactly, Sharat Bose.
Shankar Roy, and of uh, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, just on the partition of Bengal. So if you can help me, I would be very grateful.
I will try, but
Yeah, these three people, because they were the main people who wanted to keep Bengal united, isn't it?
But there is some controversy regarding Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. Sharad Bose and others leaders are always tried to make an independent Bengal. There is some controversy regarding Shyama Prasad Mukherjee.
Yeah, I know.
So, as an eminent intellectual, you see both the forces of India and Pakistan, both the far right wing forces, so-called Hinduttavadi forces in India, and you see the right wing forces of Pakistan. How could you define these two forces? Is these forces too similar?
The right wing forces have been in charge of the state from the beginning. In India, I think the right wing forces started gaining ground after the attack on the Babri Masjid in 1992 December, and they learned that playing the Hindu majoritarian card was the best way to win elections. And since then, they have used it successfully many times. And now Narendra Modi and his government openly let right wing Hindus day in and day out keep blaming the Muslims for everything which is wrong in India, historically and presently. And so this is most tragic. This is also a continuation of the communalist ideology upon which the two nation theory was used. In Pakistan, it was used, Pakistan came into being because of it. So within the state, there is a communal ideology at the bottom of it. In India, it took many years before right-wing Hindus could start using it successfully to win elections, and now they have a government which is very friendly towards them. So it is so tragic that in the 21st century, on both sides, right-wing forces more or less, decide the agenda of politics. That's the tragedy.
That's a tragedy. So এখানেই উনি আজকে আমরা শেষ করব. Ishtiaq Ahmed tells about a tragedy, and from here we will see a hope. Once upon a time, Mirza Ghalib said that Hazaro Khwaishi Aiski. So we have many dreams, and one day all dreams will be fulfilled by the people of power, by the power of people.
Yeah, let's hope. Yes,
Let's hope.
that.
So hope is our destiny and hope is our power.
Correct. Very correct.
इस्ताक भाई, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? कथा मुख का जो श्रोता है, दर्शक है, उनके लिए कुछ मैसेज देना चाहेंगे?
देखिए, मैं कैलकाटा आ चुका हूं 1996 में. इंडिया पाकिस्तान पीस फोरम एक होता था, वो हर साल मिलते थे. तो कैलकाटा में जब मैं आया और वहां पे लोगों से मिला, आई केम फ्रॉम स्वीडन टू ज्वाइन दैट डेलीगेशन जो पाकिस्तान से गया था, टू टॉक पीस विद इंडिया. तो वहां पे a very elderly gentleman, Mr. Roy, came. वो dark glasses he was wearing, he was almost blind. So he came and he said, I want to talk to you. He said in 1929, when Congress met in Lahore, we came thousands of people for that meeting, because on the banks of the river Ravi, we put our hands in the water and said, we will fight for the freedom of India. So now I'm so old and I wanted to meet somebody from Lahore.
No, you are very young in mind, sir. You are very young in mind.
Yeah, well, this gentleman was very old. When he met me in 1996, he said, I've come to meet someone from Lahore because in 1929 I was in Lahore for the unity and for the freedom of India. So meeting somebody from Lahore made him feel good, and I remember that very much. Then in 2009, I went to a conference in Calcutta, and it was hosted by the Abul Kalam Azad Institute, and I made some friends. So, my impression of Bengali intellectuals, Bengali people, is that they are uh, very cultured, very musical, very poetic people. So, it's a very good impression I have of West Bengal. I've been to East Bengal in 1990, met the people there also. So, the message is try to remove prejudices, find what is common, help those who are weak and poor so that you can have some sort of egalitarian society. Perfect equality is not possible, all right, but we should move away from inequality to some practical equality so that people who come on this earth live, their lives out, may have some joys in their life. So that's the message.
So message is clear and loud. Send my roots rain. So
Yes.
special thanks to Ishtiaq Ahmed for talking with Katha Mukh. Thank you, sir, for talking with us.
My pleasure. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
also enjoyed very much talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.